You will learn tonight that influence is not a weapon to hide, but a responsibility to wield. There are those who confuse force with power, who mistake noise for authority. True authority arrives quietly, like winter settling over a city, inescapable, inevitable, and respected. If you wish to bend the world toward your design, begin by bending yourself. Command first your posture, your silence, your attention. From there, the world will begin to lean in your direction. Stand where others stumble. Observe. The crowd is noisy with opinion, but the sovereigning few are silent with purpose. Speak only when your words sharpen the air. When you speak seldom, your voice becomes a comma and a command. When others shout to be heard, the one who listens becomes the one they reveal themselves to. Learn the manner of listening that gathers information without showing hunger. Let people think they are giving you the map. You will already know how to read it. Control of circumstance begins with self-command. Temper impatience into intent. The man who hurries betrays his hand. The patient hand moves and seasons the moment. There is a discipline in patience that feels like cruelty to the untrained. Yet it is simply a mastery of timing. Act when the hour is yours, and when it is not. Conserve your power. Energy scattered is authority wasted. Master the quiet art of presence. Walk into a room as though the room has been waiting. Your posture, the evenness of your breath, the steadiness of your gaze, these are your heralds. Presence is a language without words. Those who speak it fluently find that doors open and rivals misstep. Cultivate a stillness that commands attention. When you are calm, others are quick to fill the void with their confessions and complaints. Use that knowledge to lead, not to exploit. Understand human desire. Men and women move by hopes, fears, and the hunger to be seen. Show them a future shaped by their admiration, and they will follow. Offer clarity where others offer chaos. People submit not merely to power, but to a believable promise. Paint the horizon in strokes they can recognize as their salvation, and watch them align themselves with your strategy. Yet beware the temptation to coerce. Influence born of coercion is brittle and will snap under pressure. Build instead networks of voluntary allegiance. This is the craft of reputation. Behave in ways that justify trust before you ever ask for it. Keep your commitments visible. Be fair where fairness costs you. Reputation spreads like fire. Feed it with small, consistent actions, and the blaze will serve you when you most need it. Language is currency. Learn to frame, not to lie. Framing is the hand that sets the chessboard before the game. It offers perspective without deceit. Speak so that people see the shape of the choice you prefer without feeling cornered. Ask questions that guide, not commands that coerce. When you frame an option as their pathway to dignity, you do not steal their agency, you win their will. There is a subtle arsenal in the habit of reward. Gratitude well placed moves mountains. Praise where praise is due. Give credit publicly and counsel privately. Recognition is not bribery when it is sincere. Rather, it is a means to shape loyalties and to extract the best from those around you. Reward competence with responsibility, and competence will breed more competence. Keep alliances close and contingencies closer. People are instruments that can play music or break strings. Choose wisely who stands near your center. Build circles that overlap loyalty and competence. Those who love you for who you are, and those who serve with skill. When the storm comes, and storms always come, you will be sustained by those whose interest is both emotional and practical. Study contradiction. The human heart is full of paradox, generosity that seeks power, humility that wants applause. Learn to read contradictions as clues. When a person's words conflict with their emotions, you understand where their lever is hidden. This is not an invitation to exploitation, it is a way to engage honestly, to meet people where they are tangled, and to offer a path forward that honors both their truth and your aim. Practice the economy of gestures. A small, well-timed act often outweighs a torrent of grand promises. A note of appreciation, a brief but precise correction. A handshake held a beat too long. These ripples become patterns in the minds of others. The wise leader understands that influence is not a series of explosions, but a sequence of measured taps that, over time, shape structure and habit. Defend your inner citadel. Learn to say no. Build boundaries that preserve your resources and sharpen your intentions. The world will test you, it will demand favors and attention. A leader who is generous without limit becomes a beggar of his own cause. Discipline in refusal is the foundation of freedom. Refuse frivolous demands so that you can answer the consequential ones with all your force. Act with strategic generosity. Give what is valuable but not indispensable. Seed loyalty with gifts that bind rather than enslave. In doing so, ensure that gratitude becomes a scaffold for mutual growth, not a chain. The greatest leaders make others better because they have first invested in the capacities of those who follow them. Finally, cultivate the courage of consequences. Every action bends the future. Be willing to accept the costs of your choices. Influence that shees from responsibility is cowardice in disguise. Take the weight of your decisions upon your shoulders, and let that weight teach you prudence. The man who refuses consequence will be judged by fate. The one who accepts it writes his own verdict. If you take these arts as arts of leadership, not weapons of exploitation, you will not merely bend people to your will, you will awaken in them the will to follow. Power wielded openly, honestly, and with purpose is the highest kind of persuasion. It changes not by stealing consent, but by earning it. Walk forth with your resolve tempered, your presence sharpened, and your purpose clear. Influence will not be something you conjure in darkness. It will be something you cultivate in light, and by that light you will lead others into the world you intend to build. To command others you must first become impossible to discompose. Mastery begins within the chamber of yourself, in the private governance of breath and attention. If you would be an engine that moves things without friction, learn to measure every pulse of your body and every impulse of your mind until they obey a ruler you have placed upon them. Practice the economy of movement. Make haste with deliberation. Let urgency be a costume worn only when its hour has come. The man who trembles at the first wind reveals the weakness of his foundation. The one who steadies his limb and lowers his voice while storms rage shows that storms are merely weather, and he is weatherproof. Posture is not ornament but instrument. Carry your shoulders as if they bear the map of your intentions. Let your spine be a column that keeps both fear and excitement at bay. The tilt of your chin, the angle of your gaze, the manner by which your hands find rest. These are the grammar of authority. Train them until they speak for you before your tongue ever moves. Let silence be your ally. Speak seldom, and when you do, let every word be a step on a stone bridge across a torrent, deliberate, necessary, unmoving. Silence compels others to fill the vacuum. In that filling they reveal themselves and place their value before you. Learn to listen not as one who waits to answer, but as one who hunts for meaning. The patient ear collects motives the hurried mouth would miss. Temper the passions that would command your action. Anger is a bright blade that cuts the holder as easily as the foe. Impatience is a fever that wastes your currency of influence. Convert these into instruments of calculation. When provoked, breathe as though you are cooling iron before you hammer it. Slow, methodical inhales that return you to measure. Practice this until composure is your reflex, not your affectation. The mastery of emotion is not denial, but direction. Take the energy of a swell inside you and channel it into a steady current that moves people by example rather than by eruption. Learn to let small affronts fall like dust. Reserve your ire for transgressions that alter the structure of your enterprise. In so doing you conserve the thunder for when thunder is required. Cultivate a presence that is felt before it is announced. Presence is the shadow you cast upon a room. It begins in the way you enter, unhurried, certain, as if the place has been expecting you. Let your footsteps be measured. Let your hand extend only when it will seal a bond. Let your smile be a rare coin used with care. Presence is the art of being the calm in the center of a whirlpool. People will gravitate toward that calm because human nature seeks stability. Refine your voice until it becomes a tool of command, evenness of tone, clarity of consonants, silence between phrases that gives gravity to each clause. Avoid the habit of raising volume to mask argument. Louder denotes less substance. Instead, let your modulation be a lever that applies influence gently but irresistibly. In conversation, master the pause, long enough to unsettle assumptions, brief enough to avoid suspicion. The pause teaches listeners that your words are measured goods, not offhand coins. Arrange your outward life to reflect the inward discipline. Dress with intent. Attire is a signal that precedes your first syllable. Choose clothes that fit both your body and your chosen identity. Let them be well maintained as evidence of order. Keep your environment minimalist where decisions matter most. Clutter is the external echo of a scattered will. Ritualize small acts, morning solitude, the reading of precise passages, the rehearsal of greeting, until they forge habits that buttress presence. These rituals are not superstition but structure. They are the scaffolding of self-command. When you enter public space, let your routine be a rehearsal and your performance authentic through repetition, not artifice. Train attention like a hawk trains its gaze. Many mistake attention for availability. The one who appears omnipresent proves only that he is diffuse. Instead, focus on what matters and let all else recede. This discipline shows in meetings where your eyes meet the speaker with the exact measure of interest. It shows in correspondence where replies are punctual and purposeful. Being fully present forces people to feel acknowledged, which converts strangers into allies. Conversely, the habit of distracted listening breeds contempt and signals a mind unworthy of trust. Guard your attention as you would a treasure, and spend it only where returns justify the cost. Hone the art of restraint. There is power in refusal, in the economy of assent. A leader who says yes to every request becomes a well that runs dry. Practice denying small conveniences to preserve your capacity for consequential decisions. Say no with dignity and a reason that preserves the relationship. This refusal is not cruelty but the architecture of sustainability. Teach your circle that your time is a commodity. That lesson will make them value it, and value is the seed of respect. Command also your expressions. Master the small betrayals of the face. Micro-reactions are the telltale signs that reveal a mind uncontrolled. Practice in mirrors until your countenance is a plane on which others can project their fears and desires without reading your own. A face that does not flinch is a fortress. One that sails easily through praise and insult alike will be followed, because followers prefer the pilot who keeps course. Yet do not become stone. Allow warmth to enter at calculated moments so that others do not mistake your steadiness for indifference. Calibrated empathy, an eyebrow raised here, a softening of tone there, creates rapport without surrender. Create a network of small tests for yourself. Put your resolve through trials that mimic crisis so that when true storms arrive you will not be unprepared. Practice speaking in situations where stakes feel low. Rehearse difficult refusals with trusted confidence. Simulate pressure in private so that public pressure becomes familiar. By subjecting yourself to controlled adversity, you build systems of response that are automatic and thus undaunted in reality. This rehearsal is the difference between a polished actor and a crafted leader. The former performs under applause, the latter governs under strain. Guard the interior with solitude. The loud world will demand your constant response. Solitude is the forge where you temper your instruments. Use solitude not as escape, but as strategy. It is where you reflect on choices, where you test the morality of your methods, where you repair the worn edges of your will. Let solitude be scheduled, not accidental, an appointment with yourself that preserves clarity. Those who cannot be alone will be noisy in company. Those who can command presence without apology. Finally, embed in your practice a moral through line. Mastery of self, command and presence is not merely a technique for domination, it is a means to enact purpose with fewer distractions and more fidelity. Let your discipline be in service of aims that ennoble both you and those who follow. When control of oneself becomes the foundation for service rather than spectacle, authority blossoms into leadership. Train your breath, steady your hand, sharpen your gaze, arrange your life, and in doing so make yourself the instrument through which decisive, principled action can be taken, so that you may stand at the center of complexity with composure, and move the world not by frantic impulse, but by deliberate and enduring will that reveals itself in every measured step you take and every quiet refusal you offer in the face of trivial demands, until even the most turbulent of crowds find themselves aligning their rhythm to yours, because rhythm is contagious and discipline is contagious, and presence, once cultivated, spreads like a tide that lifts all boats that are seaworthy, leaving those unready to flounder while you continue to navigate by the true north of your intention, which remains steady as the sun above an otherwise confused sky, and thus you learn that to command is first to be commanded by the law you give yourself, to accept the costs that law demands, to fortify your body and mind with ritual and practice, and to meet each encounter with the calm certainty that only comes from repeated victory over your own lesser inclinations, so that when the moment of choice comes you will act not from panic but from principle, not from reaction but from design, because the sovereign who cannot govern himself will soon discover that others will not trust him to govern them, and trust once lost is a debt that cannot be repaid by grand gestures, only by consistent demonstration of the inner mastery that turns presence into a beacon and presence into a charge that draws men and women to follow with willing hearts and clear minds. And this work of mastery is neither flashy nor quick. It is slow labor, a constant tending of the self as one tends a garden, pruning what is excessive, watering what is true, fencing what is precious. And in that tending you become the kind of person whose silence has weight, whose glance alters plans, whose steadiness turns panic into order, and whose refusal to be hurried reshapes the tempo of those around you, until you find that your very existence is a practice of authority that requires no proclamation, only the quiet, incessant maintenance of the inner citadel, which will hold against trespass, and which will be recognized by others as the source of a presence they cannot help but revere, because reverence is born of consistency, and consistency is born of discipline, and discipline is born of the decision to govern oneself. To listen quietly is to take up arms without sound. It is the slow excavation of truth beneath the clamor of claims. Those who speak loudly often conceal the weaknesses of their positions in the perfume of rhetoric. The one who listens collects the stale air and reads the rot. There is art in the restraint to let others lay out their maps while you trace the hidden paths with an unmoving finger. A man who masters this art knows that words are only the surface of motion. Intent is found in the pauses, the evasions, the way a sentence trembles at its close. Cultivate the habit of giving others the stage, not from timidity but from strategy. The more they reveal, the less you must fabricate. Begin with posture. A listener's body is a vessel for attention. Leaning in need not be obvious. A slight tilt, unforced, suggests interest without hunger. Eyes do not devour, they register detail. Let your face be the plane upon which confession may be laid. Practice small silences that invite elaboration. An unfilled space after a clause that prays at the speaker's certainty. Watch how people fill that space. Some will bolster their claims with pomp. Others will tip into admission. The distinction between the two is your gleaning. When someone corrects themselves mid-sentence, mark that moment as revealing correction is the softest confession of uncertainty. When someone repeats a story, note what changes and what does not. Repetition is a slow exposure, and in the variations lies motive. Learn to pass not only what is said but what is left unspoken. Human conversations are palimpsests. Beneath the ink of words are the erased lines of fear and desire. When a subject is evaded, follow the evasion like a hound follows scent. Evasion marks the lines people draw around their fragile places. Respect those boundaries outwardly, but catalogue them inwardly. In time, you will see the architecture of a person's priorities by the rooms they refuse to enter. The refusal to speak is itself speech, an argument by omission. Consider silence a dialect and learn its grammar. Notice rhythm. People have conversational tempos that reveal their habits of thought. Some rush, scattering ideas like confetti. Others measure speech as if counting coins. The hasty speaker is often propelled by anxiety or a desire to overwhelm. The measured speaker believes their sentence will sustain weight. Mirror the tempo you wish to encourage. Measured return of cadence calms haste. Steady listening coerces openness. But be wary of mimicry that feels theatrical. Mimicry should be subtle, a shadow rather than a mask, or else it betrays the listener as an actor and not a confidant. Collect detail with the patience of a jeweler inspecting facets. A name said wrong, a location vaguely described, a date misremembered. These are the tiny refrains that, when assembled, reveal whether a narrative is constructed or genuine. Log these details mentally. They will form the ledger by which promises and threats can later be weighed. Do not show that you are counting. Let your notations be invisible. For when people perceive calculation, they harden into performance and the truth retreats. Permit yourself the discipline of asking questions that are simple, specific, and open. The wrong question closes a door, the right one prays it wider. Ask for clarification rather than challenge. Ask for the story that led to an assertion rather than refuting the assertion itself. People will often defend a point until the point becomes a story that contains its own contradictions. By coaxing the story out, you reveal the scaffolding underneath. Avoid interrogation that corners. Negotiation of information is not an inquisition. Let your questions be ladders, not hammers. Cultivate memory as a tool of influence. Remember the smallest things people hand you. Names of children, tastes, complaints, the peculiarities of their routines. Bring them up later with naturalness. The effect is immediate and disarming. A leader who remembers is one who signals that the other person matters, and that signal converts acquaintances into allies. But practice discretion. Do not weaponize recollection to shame or entrap. The moral use of remembered details is to generate trust and to guide decisions with knowledge, not to expose for spectacle. Read emotion as if it were a language of motion. Where anger blooms, there is a wound. Where flattery overflows, there may be need. Distinguish between effect and intent. An expressive face can mask a cautious heart. When alarm is detected in tone, do not match it with equal alarm. Instead, anchor with calmness so that the true cause of the alarm surfaces in clearer outline. When joy is excessive, ask what scarcity it conceals. Exuberance often hides desire or debt. Emotions are not merely personal states, they are signals in a social economy, and when deciphered they indicate where leverage or compassion might be required. Observe how people frame others. The metaphors and adjectives one uses to describe allies and enemies reveal alliances and rifts. Someone who consistently invokes where will bind with community. Someone who invokes they distances themselves. The way a person names a rival derogatory, neutral, admiring, tells you how entrenched that rivalry is. Listen for these cues and map the social topology around each speaker. Influence flows along these networks. By knowing their channels, you can choose the most efficacious route for persuasion that preserves autonomy rather than stealing it. Practice the humility of partial ignorance. When you feign complete knowledge, you invite challenge. When you admit to not knowing and then listen, people will often help you understand simply because it satisfies their sense of usefulness. Use this sparingly but authentically. Place yourself occasionally in the role of the seeker and watch how doors open. Those who love to teach will pour forth, revealing methods and reasoning that otherwise remain cloistered. But be sincere. False curiosity is a poor mask and will be seen through. Balance secrecy with transparency in your own disclosures. Offer small, true things about yourself that invite reciprocity. The law of give and take is social gravity. When you reveal carefully chosen vulnerabilities, others are willing to reveal in return, often more than they intended. This is not manipulation if done to build genuine rapport. It is an economy of trust. Let your disclosures be truthful and proportionate so that they seed bonds rather than debts. Finally, remember that listening is an ethical instrument as much as it is strategic. Information gathered in confidence must be treated with the gravity of a sworn duty. To hoard secrets for petty triumphs is to degrade the very trust that made those secrets accessible. Use what you learn to build structures that elevate common purpose, not merely to score personal victories. When listening becomes a practice of stewardship rather than a technique of conquest, it transforms the listener into a leader whose influence is durable, because it is rooted in respect. Hold your silence like a reliquary. Open it only to those whom you would entrust with your own, and let the knowledge you collect be the foundation upon which you erect policies of fairness and firmness, so that the power you accrue is not merely the residue of others' overshares, but the product of reciprocated confidence and mutual advantage. And in this way, your practice of listening will not be an instrument of lonely control, but the beginning of a shared enterprise in which the secrets you have gathered are deployed to secure not only your aims but the stability and dignity of those who have entrusted them to you, and thus the circle of trust expands as a consequence of your care, your restraint, and your refusal to squander the fragile currency that is the truth, which you protect, cultivate, and patience is the hidden armor of the powerful, the unseen fortress that guards their intentions from ruin. To act with timing rather than haste is to master one of the most invisible, yet commanding forces in human behavior. The impatient man exposes his hunger, and hunger is an invitation for manipulation. He reaches before the fruit is ripe and ends up holding bitterness. The patient one, by contrast, cultivates stillness so profound that it appears as inaction to those who do not understand motion beneath silence. He waits not because he is idle, but because he is preparing, calculating, absorbing, and aligning circumstance to his will. Timing is the difference between strength and waste. It separates those who lead from those who are dragged by their own urgency. To control timing, one must first conquer emotion. Impatience is a child of fear, the fear that the opportunity will vanish, that another will seize the prize, that delay equals defeat. But time is a servant of perception. When you act too soon, you act according to another's rhythm. When you act too late, you move after consequence. The wise move precisely when the tension of waiting becomes unbearable to others. You strike in that breath between anticipation and fatigue, where your opponent's guard softens and your ally's loyalty is at its highest pitch. This is not chance, it is orchestration. To act with perfect timing, you must first learn to observe without announcing that you are watching. Observation is not passive. It is an active stillness that draws information without altering its subject. When you remain patient, the world exposes its mechanisms to you. You see how people behave when they believe no decision has been made, how they relax, reveal, and unravel. They mistake your calm for indifference, not realizing that your silence is the gathering of advantage. In this collection of moments, you learn the tempo of the situation, its natural heartbeat. Once you know that rhythm, you can choose when to speed it up or slow it down, and thus command the flow of events. Restraint is the sibling of patience. Restraint is not denial, it is conservation. Every act of restraint saves energy that can later be spent with precision. To act impulsively is to exhaust resources before the battle begins. The leader who restrains himself in small moments builds a reservoir of willpower that can be unleashed when the stakes demand it. Think of power as fire. It can illuminate or consume, depending on when it is released. The patient leader tends the fire, stoking it quietly, never allowing it to burn uncontrolled. When the moment of action arrives, the release is focused and devastatingly effective, and the world calls it genius, though it is merely discipline in disguise. You will find that impatience breeds error in conversation, in strategy, in relationships. The one who cannot endure silence fills it with words that betray him. The one who cannot bear suspense forces resolution before the outcome would naturally favor him. The truly patient man knows that silence, delay, and hesitation are tools of creation. He understands that tension itself is currency. In negotiation, he lets the other side speak longer, unaware that with each word they spend advantage. In conflict, he absorbs insult without reply, allowing the enemy to mistake his calm for weakness until they overreach and expose their flank. Patience is a battlefield where the greatest victories are won without noise. To cultivate patience, begin by mastering small delays. Stand still when instinct says move. Observe your impulses as they rise, each one a test of control. Do not chase every thought or desire. Let them come, let them go, and learn that not all motion is progress. When frustration stirs, breathe until the rhythm of your breath replaces the rhythm of your irritation. Patience is built by repetition, by hundreds of unseen victories over yourself. Each moment you wait with intention strengthens the invisible thread that connects discipline to dominance. You must also learn the art of timing others. Every human being moves to an inner clock, a rhythm of confidence and doubt. Some are morning spirits, fierce at dawn and careless by dusk. Others bloom at night, where shadows soften their fears. Observe these rhythms and schedule your moves accordingly. When you must request, do it when the other is relaxed. When you must confront, do it when their defenses are slow. When you must inspire, do it when their hope flickers. Patience grants you insight into the secret timetable of every soul you meet. Once you know that, control ceases to be about force. It becomes the science of perfect timing. Remember that waiting does not mean doing nothing. The time between decision and execution is not void. It is the period where refinement happens. The wise use it to strengthen alliances, to test assumptions, to prepare alternatives. To act without preparation is to trust luck. To wait with purpose is to command fate. The appearance of inactivity confuses the restless. They will move first, exposing themselves, creating the very opening you need. The most strategic move is sometimes to let others act prematurely, and in doing so, reveal their vulnerabilities. Patience makes others predictable because it drives them to impatience, and impatience always leaks intention. Do not measure time by the clock but by readiness. Some opportunities are poisoned when taken early, others rot when ignored. Your task is to know which is which. To know it, listen to the environment, not merely people, but patterns, events, moods. History moves in cycles. Every tide of fortune has a moment where its rise turns to fall. The patient observer senses that shift before it is visible because he is tuned to subtle imbalance. The leaf trembles before the storm announces itself. The tone of a voice shifts before loyalty fades. Timing, then, is less about calendars and more about awareness. Patience, too, commands respect. People instinctively trust the calm, for calm suggests mastery. In moments of chaos, all eyes turn to the one who does not flinch. Your patience becomes their anchor. It draws loyalty because it represents safety. When followers see that you are not rushed, they believe you foresee what they cannot. That belief is the seed of authority. But you must not confuse patience with passivity. You are not a spectator. You are the conductor who waits for the right note, the hunter who knows when to draw the bowstring tight and when to release. The waiting is not weakness, it is aim. In war, business, or love, most ruin comes from acting too soon. A word spoken a minute early can destroy a negotiation. A step taken a day late can lose an empire. Between those two moments lies mastery. The patient one feels both, the pull of urgency and the temptation of delay, and balances them like weights on a scale. When balance is achieved, action becomes inevitability, not gamble. And when that action comes, it arrives like thunder, sudden to the world, yet prepared for in silence all along. Train yourself to love the waiting. Transform discomfort into meditation. In moments of delay, study yourself. Notice the tremors of restlessness and transmute them into energy for observation. Let others burn themselves with their own hurry. You remain cool, calculating. Every impatient person is a puppet to time, but you, the patient one, hold time by the strings. This reversal is the essence of mastery, the shift from reacting to dictating, from chasing to orchestrating. Patience is not a virtue for saints but a weapon for strategists. It is the invisible hand that steadies the sword, the slow tide that wears down the rock. It is power stretched over time until time itself bends to your will. Those who rush to dominate are soon dominated by their haste. Those who wait with intent, those who listen to the pulse of opportunity and strike only when it beats in their rhythm, these are the ones who bend destiny. And so the lesson repeats across ages. The world belongs not to the swift, but to the prepared, not to the loud, but to the still, not to those who run ahead of time, but to those who make time wait for them. Reputation is the shadow of your character projected onto the world, the echo of your actions that continues to speak long after your voice has gone silent. It is the invisible armor that precedes you into every room, the silent advocate that opens doors you never touch. To build and protect it through consistent integrity is not simply a matter of morality, it is a matter of survival and influence. A man without reputation must fight for every ounce of trust, but one with a solid name wields trust as a weapon that multiplies his reach without effort. The wise understand that reputation is not built in declarations but in repetition, small, dependable acts that accumulate like layers of stone until they form a fortress around your name. Integrity begins where convenience ends. When the world is watching, virtue is easy. When no one is watching, it is tested. Reputation, however, is formed most powerfully in those unseen moments. The quiet choice to fulfill a promise, the refusal to betray confidence, the decision to stay truthful when deceit could bring quick advantage. These are the unseen strokes that paint the portrait others later admire. Integrity is not an ornament for public admiration. It is the structure that holds power together. Without it, success decays from within. A man can feign virtue for a season, but eventually his foundation crumbles under the weight of his own performance. The one who practices integrity as instinct never fears exposure, because exposure only reveals what was already solid. To guard reputation, first build it upon truth. Lies are scaffolds. They rise quickly but collapse with the first tremor. Truth may build slowly, brick by brick, but it endures earthquakes. When you keep your word even when it costs you, when you act with fairness even toward those who cannot repay you, the world begins to treat your name as currency. People will risk their fortunes and futures on your reliability. That is the highest form of power, because power sustained by trust requires no force. The most commanding influence is that which flows willingly from the faith others have in your character. Reputation is not vanity. Vanity seeks applause. Reputation seeks continuity. The applause fades the moment you turn your back. Continuity follows you like a shadow, protecting or haunting you depending on how you have shaped it. The greatest rulers and thinkers throughout time understood that fear may compel obedience, but respect sustains it. Respect is earned through consistency, the rare quality of matching word and deed through every circumstance. When your actions align with your promises, even your enemies must admire the precision of your integrity. That admiration, even from those who dislike you, is the clearest sign that your reputation has hardened into power. Guard your reputation not with arrogance but with vigilance. The higher it rises, the more fragile it becomes. A single careless act can stain what years of diligence have built. Be deliberate in every association. A man is judged not only by his deeds but by the company he keeps. Align yourself with those whose character reinforces yours. Disloyalty and dishonor are contagious diseases. Proximity spreads suspicion faster than words. When you must part from corrupt allies, do so decisively and publicly, for silence can be mistaken for consent. Reputation, once questioned, must be cleansed by action, not explanation. Explanations are smoke, behavior is fire. Burn away doubt with deeds that cannot be misunderstood. Do not confuse integrity with softness. Integrity does not mean surrendering principle to please others. It is often the courage to act justly when justice is unpopular. People respect those who stand firm even against advantage. for such resolve marks a strength they cannot easily manipulate. The one who keeps integrity even when it costs him profit will be trusted with greater stakes later. Power tests character, and only those who refuse to trade it for temporary gain deserve to hold it long. Integrity is not the denial of ambition. It is ambition refined by discipline, directed by principle, and safeguarded by reputation. Reputation must also be managed actively. The world is full of observers who misunderstand, enemies who distort, and fools who repeat. Control your narrative before others write it for you. Speak sparingly but clearly. Communicate intentions through actions that need no defense. When rumor arises, counter it not with protest, but with visible demonstration of the opposite truth. Time is your best witness. The longer you remain consistent, the more lies collapse under their own contradictions. Let others exhaust themselves in slander, while you continue to operate with dignity. The wise do not wrestle with mud, they let clarity dry it out. Your reputation is not merely personal, it is strategic capital. Doors open not because of who you are, but because of what others believe you are. When people perceive you as dependable, honest, and fair, they lend their trust before you even ask. This trust becomes a force multiplier. In negotiation, your word becomes binding before pen meets paper. In leadership, your guidance becomes accepted without resistance. Integrity transforms reputation into authority. Authority transforms reputation into legacy. But beware, authority gained through deceit will betray itself. The liar must always labor to maintain illusions, while the honest man merely continues to be himself. Consistency is the most persuasive rhetoric. When your behavior remains aligned with principle over years, it gains weight that no speech can match. The crowd may cheer the loud, history remembers the consistent. Consistency does not mean rigidity, it means reliability. You may adapt methods, change tactics, and evolve your understanding, but your core values must remain visible and unchanging. When people know where you stand, even if they disagree, they can trust you. That trust paradoxically allows flexibility without suspicion. The unpredictable lose allies, the consistent collect them. To sustain integrity, learn to say no. Every request, every compromise, every tempting shortcut is a test of your boundaries. If you agree to all, you belong to none, least of all to yourself. A clear refusal spoken calmly is an act of strength. It signals that your values are not for rent. Those who respect power respect boundaries. The polite but firm denial of what conflicts with your ethics will earn quiet admiration, even from those disappointed by it. Each refusal builds a wall of respect around your reputation, protecting it from erosion. Transparency is another weapon of integrity. Speak truth before truth is demanded. Admit errors before they become scandals. Accountability disarms criticism, denial multiplies it. When people see that you take responsibility without evasion, they feel safer under your guidance. Transparency does not mean confession of weakness. It is the assertion of control. You define the terms of your own narrative instead of allowing others to define it for you. Those who hide mistakes are ruled by them. Those who reveal them master their consequences. There will come times when protecting reputation means facing injustice. The envious, the deceitful, the ambitious will attempt to stain what they cannot match. Meet such attacks not with vengeance but with endurance. Retaliation often shrinks dignity, restraint expands it. Let time and truth perform their patient surgery. In the end, the false accuser will choke on the smoke of his own fire. Reputation that survives attack emerges stronger, for it has proven its resilience under scrutiny. Integrity also demands internal alignment. Public virtue without private discipline is hypocrisy dressed in fine words. You cannot fool those who live close to you. The mask always cracks at home. Practice integrity in solitude when no one applauds. Honor the small promises you make to yourself, rising on time, finishing tasks, keeping order in the smallest duties. These habits become the unseen pillars of reputation. A person who keeps promises to himself naturally keeps them to others. People can sense that reliability even without evidence. It radiates from behavior like scent from a flower. Understand finally that reputation is not owned. It is loaned by those who believe in you. It can be reclaimed the moment you cease to deserve it. Treat it, therefore, as sacred trust. Renew it daily through integrity in thought, word, and act. Let your honesty be quiet, your fairness unadvertised, your discipline habitual. Over time, the world will come to rely on your steadiness as sailors rely on the stars, unreachable yet guiding. And when storms come, as they always do, your reputation will be the ship that carries you through. For the sea obeys no man, but it respects the vessel that has proven seaworthy through every trial. And that vessel is your name, built plank by plank from every act of integrity you chose when no one was watching, every truth you spoke when silence was easier, every promise you kept when it cost you more than you wished to pay, until that name becomes not just what you are called, but what others build their faith upon, and that faith, once earned, becomes a fortress more powerful than gold or armies, for it is constructed not of wealth or fear, but of trust, the rarest and most enduring material in the human world. Influence is an art of subtle movement, not domination. It is not the act of forcing another's will, but of guiding it, gently and invisibly, toward the direction you choose. Those who understand the quiet mechanics of human nature know that people are not controlled by commands. They are steered by perceptions. The mind is a stage where frames define reality. Whoever shapes the frame controls the play. To influence ethically with framing and strategic generosity is to master the soft power that commands without threat, persuades without pressure, and wins without visible struggle. It is the art of making others desire what aligns with your intention while believing it is their own choice. Framing begins with perception. The human mind does not respond to facts. It responds to meanings attached to those facts. A situation may be interpreted as an opportunity or a trap, depending on how it is framed. Thus, when you wish to lead others toward your aim, do not battle their beliefs directly. Instead, redefine the context in which those beliefs exist. Shift the frame, and the picture inside it changes automatically. If someone resists your idea, present it not as your demand, but as a pathway to their own benefit. People move more willingly toward self-interest than toward instruction. To influence silently, let your words and tone reflect understanding of their desires, fears, and values. When people feel seen, they open their minds. When they feel persuaded, they close them. The ethical master of influence knows that persuasion is not deception. It is architecture. You build meaning the way an architect builds space with angles, lighting, and perspective. The same room feels open or oppressive depending on how it is arranged. The same truth feels liberating or threatening depending on how it is told. The unethical manipulator lies. The wise influencer tells truth through design. He aligns the truth with the listener's lens so it becomes acceptable, even irresistible. This is why those who truly command others often appear humble, calm, and kind. They do not need to shout because their framing already sets the stage for agreement. Strategic generosity is the second pillar of silent influence. It is the deliberate offering of value, assistance, or recognition to plant seeds of loyalty and gratitude. Generosity is a mirror. It reflects power disguised as kindness. When you give, you position yourself as the source. People instinctively honor the source of their gain. Their minds associate your presence with benefit, and that association becomes influence stronger than persuasion. Yet generosity must be calculated, not reckless. Give not from impulse, but from intention. Every gift should create connection, obligation, or alignment. A well-timed favor is worth more than 1,000 arguments. It binds without words, creating an invisible thread that draws people back to you, even when they wander. The subtlety of generosity lies in balance. Give too little, and you seem selfish. Give too much, and you invite dependence or suspicion. The goal is to make your gestures appear natural, effortless, and free of demand, even though each is a deliberate act of positioning. True generosity is not about the cost of the gift, but the meaning it carries. A word of recognition can hold more weight than gold when spoken in the right moment. To an ambitious soul, acknowledgement is currency. To an insecure one, kindness is a leash. To a proud one, trust is the rarest gift of all. Learn to diagnose what each person craves, and give precisely that in measured doses. Influence grows where desires are fed wisely. Framing and generosity intertwine like threads of the same fabric. Framing builds the mental space in which people interpret reality. Generosity fills that space with warmth and gratitude. Together, they create an environment where your presence feels indispensable. People return to what makes them feel understood and valued. When you frame a problem in a way that empowers someone, and then provide help that confirms that empowerment, you transform yourself into their ally, even if the alliance serves your deeper strategy. The best manipulation never feels manipulative, it feels like cooperation. To influence silently, you must first observe noiselessly. Watch how people speak, what they emphasize, where they pause. Every word reveals a desire or a fear. Their tone betrays where they seek validation. Most people are walking maps of their own weaknesses, visible to anyone who looks without judgment. Listen not to respond, but to decode. Once you understand their frame, you can shift it with a single well-placed comment or gesture. Sometimes, silence is the strongest influence of all. A thoughtful pause can create pressure greater than a speech. It forces the other to fill the void with their own reasoning, often landing exactly where you wanted them to. Influence grows in the soil of trust. Without it, even the most brilliant framing crumbles. Trust is earned by consistency and empathy, the visible signals that you are safe to follow. Speak in tones of calm certainty. The nervous and uncertain repel influence, the composed attract it. People crave emotional stability because most of them live in chaos. When you become the calm center in their storm, they begin to orbit around you naturally. Trust does not mean transparency in all things, it means reliability in what matters. The more predictably you honor your word and respect their dignity, the more they will surrender to your guidance willingly. Ethical influence does not seek to enslave others, it seeks to align them. It directs their natural impulses toward outcomes that benefit both. When your purpose is grounded in reason and fairness, influence becomes sustainable. Deception may yield quick victories, but it poisons long-term loyalty. Influence that survives time must nourish both giver and receiver. You may control others silently, but if your control destroys their dignity, rebellion will eventually rise from beneath their gratitude. The strongest influence is that which allows people to feel free even as they follow your lead. Framing also applies to yourself. The frame you carry inside determines how others perceive you. If you frame yourself as inferior, they will sense it. If you frame yourself as inevitable, they will yield to it. Self-perception radiates. Confidence without arrogance, purpose without apology, discipline without display. These form the frame of authority. To influence others, first control the frame of your own presence. Speak with stillness, act with intention, and hold silence like a blade. The energy you project becomes the lens through which others experience your words. If you believe your influence is natural, they will feel it before you speak. Generosity, too, must extend inward. A man stingy with himself cannot give wisely to others. Treat your time, energy, and attention as sacred currencies. Use them deliberately. Give where it strengthens your network. Withdraw where it drains your power. Each act of generosity should be an investment in stability, yours or others. When you uplift others from a place of abundance, they see you as a source of life, not a beggar seeking praise. Influence flows upward from self-mastery. You cannot guide others' emotions if you are prisoner to your own. The quiet influencer moves like water, filling spaces, shaping rocks, yet never announcing power. He does not wrestle control, he absorbs it. When you frame situations wisely and give strategically, people begin to adopt your rhythm without realizing it. They think they are agreeing with you, but they are aligning with the environment you built. They think they are acting freely, but they are following the current you set. This is silent control, the kind that leaves no fingerprints yet changes everything it touches. Control through ethics is control that endures.